What's good, guys? Will from Shadow Ascent signing back in. It's been a minute, but we have not been consistent on this channel for a while. That is what it is. At the very least, I think it's important to every now and then come back to this because this has been a hobby of mine, and for a while, I'm a lot busier now than I was the last time I was consistently making videos, and that is not an excuse to just not prioritize a hobby, to not do something that matters to me, which is why I still want to make it a goal to try and put these videos out there, try and put my voice out there, because I think I have things to say that are valuable. I have experiences that I can share, and even if it's just reflecting, kind of like in a verbalized journalistic manner, I think that still is valuable to me, and maybe it is to somebody else. So that's why I want to share it. And um, I'm if you I don't know if you guys have seen my recent videos, but well, not recent, but the last few that I made, but I have moved out again. I moved to closer to my hometown with my fiance, and I got a new job. I'm actually an automotive photographer. For a full-time gig, it's actually pretty sick. I like the pay of it. I like the structure of it and the flow that you get into. I feel like the days go by pretty smoothly, and for working a 9 to 5, like, it's not bad. It's not like I don't have any freedom or work-life balance, and I don't think it's necessarily my long-term career, but that is something that I do need to ultimately map out. However, I am also trying to be more not only empathetic of myself, but respectful of myself. And one way that I've been starting to do that is through therapy. I've had about 4 or 5 sessions now with my therapist, and one of the things that we kind of touched on was how I always had low self esteem growing up, and shame that culminated in my experience speaking to women, and how that really prevented me from even initiating anything, from being myself, from being open. And I always had that fear of rejection or abandonment, being ghosted. Now, as I got older, that kind of dissipated a little bit. Like, I'm engaged now, so it's not like that fear is um, attributed to the same facets as they once were, but it certainly still manifests by times where I feel like I'm not enough or I'm not doing enough. And I think in order to get to how to improve upon that, you also need to tackle the roots. Where did that begin? And so it's an ongoing process. I'm not going to act like I figured that all out. I've only had like a few sessions, like I said, but it's been very important to dig into that. I mentioned on this channel a lot of times my fear of intimacy and how much that has affected me over the years, and just being single throughout my late teens, early 20s, my whole life up until 2024. And so that's been a big battle. Even with my fiance, we've had times that have been difficult, and revolving around that. And so it's better to face it. You don't want to run from it. These kind of things will always catch up to you. And so it's very important that we tackle life's problems head on. And right now, like, I'm accepting that I'm a 26-year-old man who is still figuring some things out. I'll never stop, but I've also grown a lot over the years. And to see that from kind of a bird's eye view, and see like how when I was 21, 20 years old, 22, like, and making a lot of these videos on this channel, because those are the main years when I was different. I had aspirations. I was ambitious, but I didn't necessarily have the same vision as I do now, or same thought process I do now. You always change and evolve, and that's a part of life. But to see the growth, and to see how a couple years ago I never could have possibly imagined I'd be where I am today. And that's the same thing I can say for like every single year that I go back and reflect upon in my life. I couldn't at that stage picture myself being where I was a year later, where I am now. And I want to keep up with that sort of momentum. So a lot of times we don't give ourselves enough credit when we look back on the past, and we think, oh man, I'm stuck. I haven't gone anywhere. My life has just been in the same place. But then you realize there have been incremental changes along the way, gradual steps. Now, that's obviously assuming you have somewhat of a willingness to traverse the unknown, to do something slightly uncomfortable in your life from time to time. And I think that's one core element of my intentions this year, which is to find the balance and alignment. In years past, I could work out 6 days a week and still find the time to write and still make these videos because I was working part-time and living with my parents. But now that I'm working full-time and I have a partner and I have a bunch of chores that I got to do, I'm living on my own, it's different. And so you have to find the time, even when you don't really always want to, after a long day of work or during the weekend, to do the things that matter to you, to do the things that bring you a sense of energy and a feeling of satisfaction or being grounded. This is one of them for me, like I said. And that is something I really want to find more structure with, is organizing my life with the work-life balance and getting to a point where I can, like I said, prioritize these things. Like writing is such a passion for me and I feel so great every time I do it. But a lot of times I don't take the initiative to do it and I sit on my phone and doom scroll. I still have these habits from years in the past. I'll still hop on the game when it's like, damn, I probably should be doing something different right now. But that's also something that I think comes with the overall balance and alignment, is that you do need to give yourself time to be human. Right? We're not machines. We're not supposed to just be go, work. And sort of training your mind to understand that and accept that is a part of the process as well. And yeah, I like where my life is at, man. It's wild. Like I said, I never could have imagined being engaged to someone that I love and being in this place at the age of 26 that isn't my parents' house. A few years ago, if you asked me where would I be when I'm 26, I don't know. Probably not getting married and like living out on my own. I probably would have thought I would still be with my parents. But I think setting goals is important because, like I said, writing, making these videos, also working out. Working out is something that I have done, but pretty inconsistently over the last couple of years. I'll go a week where I'm on it. I do it 3-4 times a week, and then the next week it's once, and then the next week it's none, and the next week it's twice, and then the next week it's none, and the next week it's once. So you're not really getting anywhere out of that, and I want to be more consistent with it. So I think within the balance and alignment, there's a level of consistency that I want to find, because when you can find that consistency, I feel like everything gets into a flow, and that flow state is what we're all after, right? And every chapter of life is going to have that sort of awakening of like, holy shit, I'm going through a lot. Like there's all this new stuff that I'm in, a new chapter that you're experiencing. And then it's like, okay, it's a new puzzle you have to put together. You're trying to figure out, where does this piece go? Where do I put this piece? What do I do? What do I do? I don't know how to figure this out. I don't know how do I pay taxes? When am I going to buy a car? Like, when should I, should I ask my partner to marry me? What should I do? What kind of career do I want? Like, and then things after a while might come together, and there's maybe a period of calm of like, oh man, this is nice. I enjoy this. But I'd say that right now I'm kind of trying to approach that stage of like a calm, where I do feel like things have come together, and I really want to be able to focus on my mental health. Because I think throughout the weekends especially, I get to a point where I'm laying in bed doing nothing, and if anything, I'm going back to bad habits, like I said, watching porn or doom scrolling, and that is often a coping mechanism for the fact that I'm not doing anything, which is exactly where I'm saying, like, it becomes this cycle, this harsh cycle, and that's what I want to erase, or at least correct. But recognizing it is the first step. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at right now. And I don't know, like, I have actually been thinking about psychedelics a little bit recently, not necessarily in the sense of, indulging in an experience, but just how profound of an impact that they've had on me and who I am. And I don't want that to go shoved under the rug, even though it's not something that's at the forefront of my ideologies today. They still helped me evolve and sort of recognize patterns in my life, recognize patterns about the world around me, and ultimately how to properly integrate those patterns within in the outer world. And be able to talk about it, be able to not be afraid about it, not shy away from it. Because, when you're 18 years old and you're out of high school, it's like, who am I? What does that even mean? What do I do? You know, there's no like real path that I feel like we're set on in Western society immediately. You know, some people might know what they want to do at a young age. Like, I want to be an engineer. I want to, you know, get into politics. I want to be an athlete. But most people don't really know. And so it's a hard time at that age. And that age is not just 18, it can go for years. But these ages of this time is very important. And you want to really be patient with yourself, but try and actually figure out who it is that you are. What the fuck you want to do. Not just with your career. Like, that's the first thing people always think of, but what do you want to do on a daily basis? What do you want to do? Like, who do you want to be in your life? And yeah, you know, it's just something that I think we're constantly figuring out, but it's important to master or at least prioritize the mental, psychological, and spiritual sides at a younger age, because a lot of people are very, I mean, I don't want to come across as like a egotistical or narcissistic, but kind of dull a little bit. A lot of people can be a little dull and materialistic. And I feel like to have a world outside of that and to have a mindset that's more down to earth, especially in a very social media driven age like this, is vital. And yeah, but I feel like I said pretty much everything I needed to in this video. Thank you guys for watching. I want to be actually try and hold myself to making one of these videos a week. I think that'd be a good goal. So it starts here, episode 1. Peace.